Hello everyone and welcome. It's the Euro V8 Supercar Series live from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We are ready for this endurance event, and this will be the final event of the season with endurance rules in place. Two races left after this one in the championship, but we shouldn't get too much ahead of ourselves because this one is going to be a long one. My name is Marco Barbanera. Sam Fitzpatrick will join me as soon as possible, sadly dealing with some PC issues, and he is desperately trying to solve them in the background. So for the time being you will have to deal with me alone, and we are in the final minutes of qualifying around here in Charlotte, in the new and improved Charlotte Motor Speedway infield course, which has played us to NASCAR last season for the first time, and it has absolutely proven to be a very nice racetrack, and it will be, of course, the home of the NASCAR Charlotte playoff race for many years to come. And we can see right now the drivers going around and the new chicane there are basically, the layout is not that different from the layout we had in iRacing for so many years, but there have been some changes. Of course, you can see the walls now much closer to the racetrack. There has been, of course, a nice revamp to the to the facilities, to the way the infield track looks, a bit smoother in some places, as we can see on board. Following George McClay here, and the two new chicanes that basically break up the two main straights, the backstretch here, and there is a chicane that is going to be super tricky because it's absolutely vital that you get your braking point, more than your braking point, your line through the chicane in a correct way, because that curve that you will see on the left in just a second, not this one, but this one, very close to the tire barrier there, can really do a lot of damage to your car. And also the other chicane here, a good passing opportunity, and we've seen in the real life NASCAR race a crazy race ending in 2018 that then gave the victory to Ryan Blaney after Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr., first and second, collided with each other while they were fighting for the race win. Your pole sitter is Johnny Brandon. He is currently in front of his teammate Nicole Foggy. Not a lot in this, one tenth and a half between the two of them. Let's see if Brandon improves himself. He does 113.293, so he consolidates his pole position. Drivers trying to improve on their time. This is Harald Stadler as he's coming around, but this is his out lap, so it won't count. Let's see if Chris Jackson is on a valid lap. It looks like he is. Richard Wormingham also coming through the final chicane to the start finish line, and he improves himself, but will still start from P7. And that is it for qualifying today. Like we said, endurance round, so only one very long race, and time acceleration is set to 8 times, so it's going to be a nice change of pace. Not only the grip will change, the sky will change. Let's go through the starting grid then. For this final enduro of the season, it's Johnny Brandon starting from pole position. Look at the traditional NASCAR starting, the Le Mans start. Basically, the cars will line up, at a 45-degree angle, more or less, and then they will go into a proper racing alineation. So, Johnny Brandon is the pole sitter in front of teammate Nicole Foggy. Johnny has to get a bit of points if he wants to get back into the championship. And George McClay, Ara Stadler, second row. Then Chris Jackson and Michael Taliancic. Nice to have him back. Richard Wormingham, Tony Klusterman, way back in P8. Nikolai Bokatayev and Anthony Woodward are in P9 and P10 respectively. Then Gary Croft, Alex Mas from Spain, Andrew Hoffman, Katie Rose Taranto, Peter Bingham, Victor Tanaka in P16, then Clyde Whiting, Bill Switzer, and rounding up the grid is going to be Michael Frost. And as we wait the full pace lap, we also give you the championship standings in the KSW Cup, the overall championship. Tony Klusterman is your leader. Remember that we are still, this is the full points without the drop rounds, which will come in effect at the final round of the season. Chris Jackson is in second, 10 points behind, and 12 points behind. You can see Nicole Foggy, then Richard Wormingham and Johnny Brandon really losing some key points for technical issues over the course of the season. He's only in P5. Evdoka Stalder, Bokatayev quietly, but having a very solid season, and Woodward and Carr round up your top 10. In the club championship, let's say the amateur gentleman championship, Gary Croft with a sizable lead over Clyde Whiting, who then has 400 points over Michael Frost, and Sam Busin, Peter Bingham, and Brenton O'Brien, rounding up the yellow championship as we are pacing right now, and the cars are going into that first corner there, Artburn turn 1, and it is called like this because of the sponsorship that you have there at the end of the basically the mini run of Feria there. We've seen a massive pileup in the real life NASCAR race last season there at one of the restarts. It's also a corner that can really cause you some heartburn because that's where the drama usually happens. And then back into the infield here. There are not a lot of problems with track limits around here. It's a very wide circuit, not only for the racing surface, but also you can really afford to go wide a bit if you happen to go a bit wide. It's not like, for example, in Spa. And then here you go down the hill slightly as you get ready for getting back to the racing circuit on the oval. You can cut as much as you want on the inside, here where Johnny is, and then full blast on the backstretch, nothing really holding you back. And also the chicane here on the backstretch is not a big passing opportunity, it's more a matter of being calm there, because like I said earlier, you clip the curb at the wrong angle and you might damage your suspension or even blow your engine, or as I was reading from our in-race reporter, master strategist Tony Klusterman, you can really also destroy your fuel tank there. So it's going to be a tricky part of the race, but the important thing here is, I think, to get a good run, don't force the issue, and then maybe go for a move at the final chicane. That is a hard braking zone, especially with these V8 cars here. I think it's going to be the premier passing opportunity for tonight. Like I said, 80 laps waiting for us as the Porsche pace car is about to take the hard left, and we will be racing here from Charlotte Motor Speedway for the final enduro of the season, Euro V8 Supercar Championship, sponsored by KSW Paintings. A tricky start here because you start basically in the chicane. Drivers will have to be careful as the pace car is in, and the green flag is in the air. Johnny Brandon, Nicole Foggy, George McClay, here we go. Already side by side Taliancic and Jackson as the cars are going to the first corner. Seems like everything is good. No issues there as Johnny is already looking to pull away from Nicole Foggy, who is in the clutches now of George McClay. As you can see, 80 laps or 2 hours and 45 minutes, but we are more than likely going to go the full distance of 80 laps today. No problems, no worries concerning the time limit, as the field knows that this is a very tough a long race, so they are keeping it very nice and tidy. And now the first real trouble spot. For the first time they will go at race pace into the backstretch chicane, and that is going to be very interesting. The way these drivers you see are jumping on the curb. Seems like everyone has been able to behave themselves. As first lap is in the books, and I am very happy to report that Sam is just about to join us.
And I can join you now. Very pleased
Great
to
timing.
be here. Yes, just watched the starts on my phone, and yeah, just had to do a few things to get the update and a couple of issues. Apologies for that, but well, I've only missed one out of the 80 laps we're gonna have around this circuit today. So instead, yeah, shouldn't be too bad, and it seemed to be pretty good start for Branson. You know, the XPR drivers have been so strong at these enduro events, really since last season. They were ever so strong, and also Suzuka. I remember where they were went on contrary strategies, but pretty much ended at the same point. And well, that was a great race between the two of them. So they are undoubtedly the players, but George McClay doing a pretty good job at keeping up at the moment in third position.
Exactly, yes, you were right at Suzuka round. Almost 1 year ago to this date, more or less. And that was a fantastic race, 0.80 between P1 and P2, I can remember from that race. Alex Mas, nice to have him back in the championship. He's trying to get a move done on Gary Croft, the leader of the uh, Gentleman Trophy, the club championship. Little bit of rubbing there. I think he will have the move done on the inside. Not the qualifying he was hoping for, Alex Mas. Seems like he is on his way up, and he will certainly try to get as many positions as possible. Like I said, time is on his side, 80 laps, long way to go. And we will see also the weather, which is interesting because we can keep track of the weather, of course, as the race goes on. And right now we have massive wind, 30 kilometers per hour, 26 degrees air temperature, 40 degrees track temperature. And Sam, since he is not broadcasting, is more than welcome to give us update on what the in-sim time is every once in a while, because I have absolutely no idea right now.
I forgot about that actually, and it's difficult to keep track because, of course, we have got 8 times conditions here. So, well, of course, this race should last for about 2 hours. In sim, that's going to be approximately 16 hours. So, yeah, quite incredible. That should end in the morning. And will be quite a challenge for these drivers at night, undoubtedly. Currently, the time is 5:15 in the evening. The date is the 15th of May. And so you can kind of assume the sun to set or to get quite dark within about 3 hours or so. And I guess in sim, what will that be? What, about 15 minutes, I imagine. So maybe 20 minutes. So watch out for that one. And these drivers are going to really struggle to keep up to date in terms of those track conditions. Of course, the temperature currently 39 degrees on the track, and so to keep up to date with those cooling track temperatures later on, and of course them rising at the end, is going to be extremely difficult. But of course, these are not too shabby drivers, as we have seen so far. Very good driving to start off these opening 4 laps already. These laps really do rattle by.
Yes, exactly, and you can see that the truck temperature has already dropped a bit compared to when we first gave it to you. As one driver that is really struggling today so far is Tony Klusterman. You can see him here. Uh, the top 9 have pulled quite a gap over the rest of the field, but it's not, Tony is not maybe where he wants to be. Maybe he doesn't like the track very much. It's a track that doesn't make too much of a selection, let's put it this way. There are not many, corners where you can make the difference. It is more of a track where you have to be consistent, and we know that Tony is very, very consistent, a very experienced driver. But so far, he has qualified in P8. Bogatyrev jumped him at the start, and he has been sitting in P9 ever since. And that is, of course, not ideal for our points leader so far. He really needs to get some some positions under his belt. As Andrew Hoffman is in the pits already, I think he had an issue.
Yep, so this is Hoffman on the outside then, and onto the grass. Does he then drop it perhaps? Seems to be okay at this point. But then peeling off, it seems, and disappointing there for Hoffman. This is a little bit of a battle brewing here. Chris Jackson, so far, outperforming his team. It's certainly a dark horse for this race, as he is for all the races, Chris. I do say this every week, and I do very much repeat myself often on these broadcasts, but Chris is, considering that he's only ever won 2 races, both at Phillip Island, it is quite incredible because he's always 3rd or 4th quickest driver out there, and never seems to quite get it together. But in this very long race today, could be a good opportunity. And these guys keeping touch with the leaders, 4 seconds between 1st and 5th place currently. And you can see maybe Brendan just holding up 2nd and 3rd places a little bit. McClay actually the fastest driver in the race on that last lap. And so, yeah, very competitive field. It's very good to see. Maybe that thing that you were talking about, Mark, how this circuit, it's more about the consistency rather than the driver making a massive difference. And I think these drivers are absolutely dialed into this track after all the practice that they've inevitably put in over the past fortnight.
Yes, I'm very surprised. I mean, George McClay is a very good driver, but he is absolutely flying right now as the drivers go once again onto the start-finish line, and once again he is the fastest of the top 3. Like you said, he did the fastest lap of the race in the previous lap. Not so quick this time, but still gaining on the 2 guys in front of him. And now I think Nicole Foggy is sensing the pressure and he wants to get the move done on his teammate. Remember, these 2 guys had a fantastic battle in Le Mans earlier this season, and both of them at a different stage were fighting with each other to throw away the race. In the end, I think Nicole Foggy was the winner in that.
Yeah, I think getting past his teammate on the last lap, I think they were both struggling a little bit for fuel on that day. Of course, Brandon effectively has to win today, really, to keep his championship prospects alive. And if Foggy has a retirement, which is very possible, as you can see through this chicane section, it's very possible that Brandon could claw back this championship with a massive amount of points which are available today. Of course, in the past 4 championships, we've had 4 different winners. We had we had Klusterman in Season 1 and Season 2, Taliancic in Season 3, Evdoka in Season 4, and then, of course, Brandon in Season 5. Will Foggy be able to make it the 5th different winner in 6 seasons, where he's keeping very close eye on his team at that time. McClay not quite being able to increase that pressure on the top 2. But he's still staying in touch, and any half-second a lap slower is how sad. In fact, Taliancic in 5th position was only 2/10 slower than the race leaders on that last one. So if he can get free a little bit... In fact, Taliancic got ahead of Jackson, didn't he? Which I did not notice.
Neither did I. Maybe a move here at the final chicane. With the lap times are so similar, Sam, it really puts an even bigger emphasis on being consistent, because one mistake, and as you can see, that was quite an easy move for Taliancic there. One mistake, one little bit of brush with the wall, or this, very, very tight chicane, it doesn't have to be a big hit, because let's say you get some floor damage or something like that, and you lose a couple of tenths per lap, you are effectively losing to everyone else in the top 5, top 6, and it's going to be tough to make it up once again, as now McClay once again is the fastest of the top 3, as they are about to add into some lap traffic that should be Andrew Hoffman, and he has already pitted.
Yes, after those issues that we saw for Hoffman earlier on, is he already a lap down? No, he's about to be a lap down. So, of course, it's not a very long lap, so expect quite a bit of the field to be lapped. In normal circumstances, I'd possibly say everyone, bar maybe the 2 XVR drivers, the 2 Never Quit Racing drivers, and George McClay to be lapped in this race. But the competitiveness right now from Stadler Taliancic and warming up, and Pogotayev is doing decent as well. They might just be able to stay on the lead lap because no safety cars in this race. Like, feels very much like there should be around a circuit like this. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of action anyway. The top three, nothing splitting them at the moment. And Marco, of course, this circuit, a lot of slow speed corners. Do you imagine it's going to be the front tires maybe feeling the stress, or is it going to be the rear tires that maybe will start to degrade a bit faster?
Well, you have to be gentle. I think that, as we know with this car, you don't want to slide those tires, otherwise you are basically, you lose all the grip until you pit. And I think these drivers know about that. I don't think we'll see a lot of lockups, so I think the rear tires will be the ones you really have to take care of, especially, when you are under pressure like Brandon is right now. On the flip side, we are heading towards the night, and so the track temperature will get cooler and cooler, and so this will prove to be a big help to all the drivers in the race while we are at it. Let's see now the weather situation. Track temperature down to 34 degrees right now, so it is going down and down at a very quick pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it doesn't quite go down as quick when you accelerate the time, at least from what I've noticed. So it might be a little bit of a slower process, but of course, there's what, 10 hours of night. It is going to get down to about 22 degrees you'd expect for the track temperature. So we are going to see that slope. It might not quite be as steep as if it were in a normal time race. And I guess these jars certainly need to create a setup which is good in all kinds of in all kinds of conditions, and also, of course, on fresh and worn tires. Foggy really forcing the issue now. These two probably in the same Discord as well now they're chatting. And, well, Foggy is certainly keeping him very honest at the moment. Will he go for a surprise attack? Not too many great overtaking opportunities around this circuit. Really got to nail this exit to really make a run down past the chicane. But to do that chicane so difficult to follow because your visibility ever so slightly compromised, and to navigate those high curbs is a real difficult thing to do. And you can see Foggy just dropping off, and in fact, that just invites McClay a little bit. 4 tenths of a second between him, and that's the difficulty that Foggy currently faces. He does go for a move. He's got to make it stick, otherwise the Pitstone Motorsport driver behind him will really make him pay.
Yes, I was looking also at Tony there. He was very close to Bogatairev, but then at that chicane he had to lift, so he will have to wait one more lap to get his move done. Taliancic really pushing hard, as he's now really close to the back of Varel Stedler, and Chris Jackson also has joined this party. Once again, Klusterman looking for a good run through there. And he has a good run, but still, it seems like he's very quick through the infield section. But then, when they come to the chicane there, to the quick chicane on the backstretch, he has to lift a bit, and then he loses all the momentum. And because here in the infield is absolutely difficult to get a move done. So actually, let's see it from his own board.
Bogotayev a little bit wide. Klusman nearly scraping the wall, but this is a good opportunity now for Klusman. Problem is, do you go inside? Do you go outside? If you force your car on the inside, there's pretty much nothing that the other driver can do. Klusman's going to push him here, and you can see Bogotayev is going to have to miss the corner. He's going to go into the wall. It's not too big a hit, however, who is just behind him? Mas gets past cleanly, and Bogotayev, he relinquished the position and was wise to do so, but then lost the rear end of the car, but should be fine to continue.
Exactly, so that goes to show when you try to get a move there, if you are on the outside, you have to lift. There is nothing else you can do. You have to lift and you have to give the position, but also you have to do it in a way that you don't hit those curbs on the right side, otherwise you can see Nikolai wasn't going very fast, but still those curves really upset his car, as I think Brandon smacked into the wall there.
Yeah, I wasn't quite watching at that moment, but all of a sudden I saw that Foggy was really close. And now, McClay is really close as well. He's right in the slipstream. However, Foggy's slipstream of his teammate is just going to fend him off for now. Will McClay force it? No, Foggy quite deep on the brakes. This could actually be a decent run for him. Onto the curb, not quite nailing it. Well, it was a good run, but I think Brandon got a decent run as well. Will there be an opportunity under the brakes into the final chicane? Certainly, Johnny Brandon is feeling the pressure. Will go back to that slight contact in a moment's time once this relatively sorts itself out, because this is really tense and this could be a race-defining moment. Quarter of a second between the two of them. Foggy just lifting up a little bit more through this second corner means that he can get a little bit more speed through the third corner. But Brandon just about keeping some momentum now. But undoubtedly, he's going to have to be a lot more careful around this part of the circuit this time because he cannot afford another contact with the wall.
Let's see how we approaches it this time. Still very close. I guess there was a contact with the wall. The car seems to be okay, but
Oh,
either
here we
went.
go. This could be close.
Yeah, this could be the good run for Foggy. Let's see if he forces the issue.
Brandon's going right to the inside. Foggy, I think, lifted out of it. And here comes McClay. Will he have a chance? No, they're kind of getting in the way of each other right now, the XVR drivers. They're compromising their race, but they are arch nemesis, undoubtedly, because they are fighting for the championship. So they're not really too fussed about the 1-2, I imagine. They're probably going to wrap up the team's championship anyway. They just want to finish ahead of one another.
Little lock up there for the champion, Johnny Brandon, as they head into the into the first corner once again. You can see how close the track. You can see the cars on the left side of your screen there. That is basically where the cars go back to the oval section, as Foggy really means business. But maybe because John is his teammate, or also because he's a very smart driver, and the same goes for McLeod. None of them is forcing the issue as they head into the chicane on the backstretch. They lift, and this also compromises the run through the final chicane.
The drivers behind them very much matching their lap time. Stadler and Taljancic maintain the gap at about 5 seconds currently with these guys fighting. Foggy lifting off quite a bit. We saw that work at Bathurst. They managed to not stop in the first race of the evening, whilst everyone else had to do a stop for fuel. It brought him the race victory that day. Will it bring him the race victory today? Undoubtedly going to need 2 stops in this race, but if he can get the overcut, perhaps it could give him some options in terms of strategy. May not work out for him straight away. Of course, he'd have to do an extra lap on older tyres, but of course it would leave him with more pace for the second stint potentially. Taljancic now trying to get past Stadler. Taljancic probably feels though he's got a chance at winning this race. They've very much dropped Jackson already. And the difficulty of overtaking around this circuit, Marco, is really showing. And personally, I love these circuits where it's difficult to overtake, at least in sim racing, maybe not in real life, but in sim racing, it's absolutely superb because, of course, maybe around other circuits, the slipstream arguably on iRacing is a little bit overpowered, and you don't really have these proper battles. But when you can go side by side for, what, 16 laps like these guys have already done, it is quite something to behold.
Yeah, and in sim racing you can afford to take a little bit more chances, since it's, Oh! Oh yeah, almost side by side between two leaders, so I will hold my thought for a bit.
Foggy backs out of it.
Yeah, you don't get the risk of getting hurt in sim racing, and you don't have to pay for the race car if you damage it. So you can take a bit more chances around this kind of track, but also puts on a better show for us, I think. And that's absolutely what we want. As you can see, the shadows are getting longer and longer. If we go on board, you can see how much the lighting situation has changed. Just a little heads up about the stadium lights around this track. They are present all around the oval section, but actually none of them into the infield. Of course, luckily the V8s have headlights, so that shouldn't be a problem. Also, in real life, I think this weekend is where the real life V8 supercars have their night race. So
Oh,
great,
cool.
great timing.
Where's that?
This year, I think they are doing it in Barbagallo, which is a beautiful, beautiful track.
Would like some more Australian, so or Brazilian circuits, those types of kind of quite high speed club tracks. With quite just unique. And of course, there's many circuits that we ought to get in iRacing, and there were a few tracks. I saw a thread in the forums a few days ago. As Taliancic, he has got past Harold Stadler. He's up into 4th position. Started in 6th position, I believe, and now up into the top 4. That's absolutely crucial for him. He got a slightly tighter line through the chicane. Put his car on the inside, and well, we've been very impressed by Hal Stadler's racecraft so far this season, and undoubtedly taking the wise decision there, the Atomic Motorsports driver, just allowing the Never Quit Racing driver to have the move. And through goes Taliancic up into the top 4. He is about 9 seconds off the lead, though.
This looks like a proper oval race with the top 3 so bunched up together, and given where we are, it's appropriate, I would say. Nothing between these 3 guys. I think that Brandon is holding them up just a bit, if holding them up is the right term around, because all 3 of them are very, very quick. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the pit stop will work. I think the pit window is around 25 laps, more or less. I say this, of course. Tony told us earlier in the week, so I will tell you as soon as there is a little bit of break in the action. But yeah, the premier strategy seems to be, to have a very even, three very, very even stints, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think so. But on the other hand, because the race starts in the day, ends in the day, with hotter track temperatures when the tyres are going to degrade a bit more, might be worth having an extra long second stint where the tyres are going to hang on that bit better, not going to have that drop off. I must say, if I was McClay, I'd be in as early as possible, because the undercut's going to be very prominent today. They are lapping about half a second slower than they were earlier on, are these drivers, as McClay is going to go for a move, maybe. Just ducks out. Keeping those drivers aware of his presence. But yeah, if I was McClay, I'd definitely come into the pits as soon as possible. Get those fresh set of tyres on, and get the undercut on these 2 drivers. Once again, Foggy a little bit slow. McClay is desperate to go for the move. He's going to look to the inside. Foggy doesn't give him too much space, and they're all taking a much tighter line through that turn 4 or whatever it is than they were earlier on this race, because they're so conscious of being overtaken from one another.
This is absolutely fantastic, Sam. It's the 20th lap that these 3 guys have been so close to each
Here
other,
we
and
go.
now look at George McClay. He has a good run. Almost snuck in there. Almost.
He is breaking that draft, though, that Foggy had, which could benefit McClay. It does give him a possibility of going for a move into this chicane, but of course this time absolutely nowhere near close enough. It does allow us to see how quickly Foggy catches up to Brandon, though, although the gap's still only at half a second. Is allowing Taliancic to close in. It'll be interesting to see what these guys' times are. On that last lap, Taliancic and Stadler were faster than the top 3. They haven't quite been as consistent as the top 3. But on this lap, once again, the top 3 dropping a little bit more off the pace. Now 6 tenths slower than they were at the start of the race. Those tyres really dropping off. Taliancic, meanwhile, about the same pace as the race leader, Johnny Brandon. So that seems to be his guy. And Sadler 2 tenths faster than everyone else on circuit that last time. As Brandon now runs a little bit wide. Foggy not interested in going for the move. He seemingly just wants to save as much fuel as possible. But it's causing him troubles, because McClay is not interested in saving fuel. He just wants to get second place.
As the lights have been turned on around the racetrack, as we enjoy this beautiful sunset, no clouds in the sky, so 100% unobstructed view of the sunset here. Trying to get a good camera angle, and now the cars have also turned their lights on, so officially we are at night, Sam.
Nice one. It is, yeah, 8:08. So I was about right. Yeah. And yeah. Well, wait, where even is this? Is this uh NC?
North Carolina on the east
Oh,
coast.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right now
Because there's
there.
not much in North Carolina, no offense to. Oh, sorry, no, I was saying North Dakota
Oh
there,
no,
but no,
it's
North
North Carolina.
Carolina. No, there's plenty in
No.
North Carolina, I'm sure.
I-
Okie doke. I was a bit confused when I thought it was North. Yeah,
You know,
the other one.
in real life, there right now it's 10 minutes to 3 in the afternoon.
Okay. I would like the special events to follow realistic weather or realistic timing to the real life place. So, for these next 24 hours, for example, I could I could look outside my window and I'd know what time it was in Sim. That'd be an excellent addition, I'd say, as McClay. This is as close as he's been. Not really a chance, though. They all take very tight lines into that chicane. A little bit hairy. Gotta be careful. Gap between first and fourth. 7 seconds now. So Taliancic is well and truly even with these guys, or at least even with Brandon, because that's Brandon is very much setting the times for those guys. And that last lap, Taliancic, much better lap than the majority of them actually. So the track temperature dropping down to 26 degrees now, Marco. I think that's really helping these drivers. And well, that was Taliancic's fastest lap of the race so far. And quite incredibly that they've all of a sudden just been able to find half a second out of nowhere.
Tell you what, let's show the gap between P1 and P4, which is of course Brandon and Taliancic over the last 5 laps, and you can see the gap is dropping quite consistently, and of course the more they battle in front, the more Taliancic can close the gap, and once again Foggy super close coming out of the infield section, but then has to lift a bit, so I think he is just waiting for the pit stops at this point.
I think so. Certainly, they are certainly in pit stop range now. McClay could come in. Or does he feel as though he can take these guys on fair and square? Doesn't need any extra pit stops or anything to help him win this race. Maybe he feels so he can get it done on the identical stretch and he wants to do it on pace. We'll wait and see. Once again, Taliancic a couple of tenths faster than these guys, but he has got quite a gap to make up. Has still got. Oh, that was a little bit scary once again from Foggy. They're not holding back seemingly, Mark. They're all sliding about through these corners.
Yeah, I mean that was. There's not a lot of runoff area here in the infield, Sam, so Nicole was very lucky and very good to catch that slide. Otherwise, he could have had a not so nice moment with the wall there in the infield. But now, this gives Brandon a little bit of breathing room and McClay a chance to maybe go for a move in the final corner. But you see how much they lift getting into the backstretch chicane, and so basically they have to. They lose all the good run that they have. They lose it.
Yeah, exactly. Very much a concertina effect. Yeah, almost seems as though if you're a little bit further back, you actually get a little bit closer on the exit. Certainly, the much more easy way to go about it. You can see how quick it's got dark around this circuit. It's now 8:45 in the evening. And pretty much, I say pretty much, but almost all the light already gone. Those headlights are going to help a little bit for these drivers. But anyone who's going to be tackling the green hell tomorrow, is going to find out that the headlights in iRacing do not do too much good. And of course, around that circuit, of course, rather than there being a few floodlights, there's just trees very much. And, well, I do not envy them one bit.
No, absolutely. It's much better to be a commentator in these cases, I tell you what.
Oh, yes.
Unless it's Sebring.
Well, of course, we are the masters of Sebring, aren't we? Oh, here comes McClay. He might have a chance here because he's 1/10 behind. That was the closest. All three of them were within about 3.5 tenths of one another at one point there. Taliancic had a bit of a weak lap that last time round, but I think on this one, he is going to edge closer. So he's pretty much neutralized that bad lap. He was 4.5 tenths faster on that last lap. We have got a four-way battle for this race win. As Richard Warming comes in, he was right on the tail of Chris Jackson. Tony Kliesman also in. So they're trying something a little bit different. And, well, the light is completely gone. This is how it's going to be for the next hour of this race at least. Are we going to see a change of position? Are we going to see any pit stops anytime soon? They should be able to go to about lap 32, but you seriously doubt any of them are really going to do that. As Foggy looks to the inside. Here comes McClay. He's going to maybe force Foggy off because Foggy lifted off to allow his teammate a little bit of a run. Now Foggy's got a poor exit. This could be McClay's best chance at going for the second position in this race. Will either of them come into the pits? Foggy will. So despite saving some fuel, Nicole Foggy is the first to come into the pits, and he's going to try to do an undercut on his teammate.
We'll keep an eye on Foggy's pit stop time, as the drivers are now in lap 27, and let's see where the drivers who pitted came out. Here's Tony Klusterman. You can see him is in P11 right now. Car in front of him is a lapped car, so and his stop was 58 seconds cone to cone. So let's see Foggy, who, I don't know if you noticed, but Foggy when he was Johnny Brandon, all sorts of sideways. So I think Johnny will come in his lap since he's pushing seemingly very hard. I don't know if you noticed, but we were on board with George McClay and Nicole Foggy just a few seconds before pitting. He was in NASCAR turn 4. He tapped his brakes 3 times. I think that was to warn.
A car in the wall, sorry.
Yeah, that's Katie Rostaranto, I think. Into the fence. Yes. So he as Johnny and George are in. So he made sure that his rival there was aware that he was going to pit. Michael Taliancic stays out and gets the temporary lead of the race.
Yes. So good stuff from Hal Stadler. Sorry, Taliancic, and of course Stadler also staying out. So, a bit of a contrary strategy. So, where is Foggy going to be? This is going to be ever so important in comparison to Brandon and McClay. Wouldn't be surprised if Brandon takes a little bit less fuel in this one just to make sure he's ahead. Foggy wasn't stationary for very long, 27 seconds compared to the 30 seconds we've seen from other drivers. Here comes Nicole Foggy. Brandon's going to be stationary for a couple more seconds. And you know what? I think it's going to be Nicole Foggy probably taking the lead of this race. Still, Brandon is stationary, and Nicole Foggy is surely going to be ahead here at Charlotte. The undercut has worked. Brandon will be in second position when it all sorts itself out. McClay in third, and that bit of fuel saving market really did help Brandon. Really did help Foggy there because it meant he could have a couple of seconds short to pit stop.
Exactly. Now Johnny will have to contend once again with George McClay. Pit stop time 55.6 for Foggy, 57.9 for Brandon, and 57.7 for McClay.
Woodward getting out of the way. Of course, he hasn't really got a team's interest in this one. Well, Taliancic is never quit racing, isn't he?
Taliancic, no. He's sporting a brand new livery that I have never seen in run in the past, and he's you know, he has he's running as a privateer in this race, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, we have to tell, of course, that Sam doesn't use or forgets to use the paint packs.
I had an excuse today, didn't I?
Yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
I had bigger issues.
Yeah. Also, it has to be said that more likely than not, when Sam uses, if Sam uses the paint packs, his computer is going to explode on him. So I prefer him to have no paint packs but able to do the commentary than the opposite.
Yeah, me too. That last lap, superb lap time from Nico Foggy at 13.45. That's half a second faster than anyone else has done in this race. McClay, well, yeah, he wants to get past now. He spent enough time looking at the back of an XVR car, and now he feels as though he is faster than Johnny Benton. And if he wants to catch up to Nico Foggy, he's now 4 seconds up the road. He has got to get this move done very quickly indeed. Brandon was holding up Foggy and McClay seemingly in that first stint. Maybe with a little bit of damage as well, of course, for Johnny. He may have had a little bit of that repaired during the pit stop. Still, Talyancic staying out there, though. His lap times, not too bad, but they have dropped off a little bit. But, of course, he should have better pace for the second stint.
Or or maybe he's getting another semi-long stint in the second one, and then at the end of the race, where the track is hotter, he's going to have a shorter stint, and maybe can maximize his fresh tires for that final rush of the race. Who knows? That is a I always like when drivers try something different. It gives us something to follow. Even I mean, and especially when it's a driver that has an outside chance of being on the podium, winning the race. So we'll keep an eye on Michael Taljancic. Now you might have noticed, and I'm a bit sad about this, from the last time we were here, which was wow, already 6 months ago, I think, when the track first came out. If you remember, in that radical race, we had cones everywhere on the backstretch. Sadly, most of those cones have been removed by iRacing, so there are no more, cones all over the place when the cars are on the infield section coming back into the oval, running them over a lot of time.
Are you particularly fond of the cones?
I like when cones are, sent flying all over the track.
Yeah, everyone does, to be fair. Although, of course, when they're stuck in, end plates and whatnot on the splitter, not so keen on that one. At least are the drivers. But no, it's good to see a few cones out there.
Yeah,
Absolutely, pretty much none of them out there. They are there apart from the pit lane ones.
yeah, no, we have them here. We have them in the first corner. We have them here on the left side. Those were the ones that were reduced in number, and I like this because they are blue cones instead of orange cones that we find basically all over the place in most of our racing tracks. So the top two, Taljancic and Stedler, are in. So
Lap
Nicole Foggy will go back to
31.
the lead. Yes, so they are really pushing their first stint. Let's see how they do in the second stint.
Place can't stay close. He gets to within about a tenth of Brandon going into the chicane. Immediately loses a couple of tenths, then makes up a tenth with the slipstream down into this next chicane. But it's it's not enough. Brandon, to be fair, I think Brandon doesn't quite have the edge on his teammates today, but he is very good at that chicane. Seemingly, it protected him from his teammate for much of the first stint, and so far it's protected him from McClay in this second stint. Taljancic, pretty long pit stop for him, 34 seconds. And so he is going to go for another big stint here.
Yeah, 1 minute and 3 spent in the pits. That is more or less the longest stop we had, apart from Alex Mas, 1 minute and 5. He still comes out in P4. So yeah, like you said, I think he's going for another long stint, and then I might have called it right for once, but it's a long way to go still. A very short final stint where he can push super hard. Although, that being said, long way to go, yes, but we are already getting so close to the halfway point of this race.
Yeah, that's mad. I really thought these 80 minutes was going to take ages, but well, it's going to take less than 2 hours this race, isn't it? So actually, a pretty quick endurance race in comparison to the ones we had in Season 4. Of course, all the races are a little bit shorter since Season 5, although, of course, well, they'll tell that to the last round at Bathurst, where we had pretty much a feature race and an endurance race.
Yeah, the last round, you know, for people that are not, of course, from what's going on behind the scenes, the last round was so long, as McClay goes there for a little bit of rallycross, was so long that Lee Thompson, one of the admins for Apex Racing TV, at a certain point wrote on our private chat saying, "Guys, you forgot to turn off the stream for the Euro V8s. It's still going." And Sam said, "No, the race is still going." Look at that little mistake there from George McClay, how much he lost in the infield section, as Foggy has got 5 seconds over the second and third place drivers right now.
You know what? McClay needs to compromise himself, do that infield, because look how close he is now. He dropped off to about 6/10 of a second behind, and now he is going to go for a move down the inside into the chicane, but that wasn't quite the opportunity. But to me, Marco, that just absolutely shows if you want to go for a move around this circuit, you've got to hold back to about 4/10 of a second going into that chicane. Because if you're any closer than that, then you just cannot get the launch. But what McClay did there was absolutely perfect, and he got an awesome slipstream down into the final corner.
Yes, I think he needs to, and he's doing more and more lately. Staliancic gets his fastest lap of the race. Personal best, of course, now his car is full of fuel, but of course it's also very, very cold outside. So that's, but still he's having some fantastic pace. I'm noticing that McClay has not been lifting as much as he did earlier in the fast backstretch chicane. He's keeping the foot down, and this helps him immensely, of course. Now he's down to 0.7, so let's see how close he gets come the start-finish line.
Yeah, he's carrying more speed than Brandon through that now, and yeah, 2/10 quicker through the chicane. Now down to 4/10 of a second. He'll get it down to 3/10 of a second, so that's 4/10 of a second he's made up, basically through the chicane, and then getting a decent slipstream down into the final one. And then there's another quarter of a second gained through the final chicane, so quite incredible that he can casually just gain half a second in a couple of corners like that. It's all about just hitching them up, getting the correct distance, hoping that Brendan doesn't quite nail that chicane, and then he'll be right in the box seat. But, well, he's spent now 35 laps sitting behind XVR drivers, and he still hasn't really come close to a move.
Weather update, 24 degrees track temperature, right now 23 degrees air temperature, wind has calmed down a bit, now 20 kilometers per hour instead of 30. So much cooler track temp. I don't think we will go down to 18, which is the lowest iRacing can get, because of the fact that we have still 16 supercars running around, as now my dog joins me in the commentary booth.
Oh, here we go. This is good from McClay. He's got a really good launch. He was 4/10 of a second behind going into the chicane. He deliberately dropped back a little bit. Now getting the slipstream. Now pulling alongside. Now they're breaking into the final chicane. Can Brandon get it stopped? He's going to be a little bit deep. They both carried lots of speed through that corner, and Brandon does well to fend off once again. They're now 6.5 seconds off the race leader. McClay needs to get this move done quickly, but well, he pretty much put that all together perfectly, Marco, but just having to take the inside for the chicane means you have to go to the outside for the corner before, and that just extends the amount of track that you have to drive, and does just compromise your entry. Oh, and now he's going to go to the inside. Almost contact between the two of them. That's not usually an overtaking spot. Now has a much better line through this part of the circuit. This is where he managed to get alongside Foggy earlier on. This time he's going to have to stay behind a little bit longer, but now right into the slipstream. 0.2 of a second behind. I think he's going to be too far behind to go for a move into the chicane. Will he drop off this time? I think he's going to really try hard this time. He's going to leave nothing on the table. Almost straight lines it, but didn't quite get the launch that he sometimes does this time. Once again, closing in with the slipstream. And just getting a bit frustrated, I think, now is George McClay, because he's seeing the race leader run off into the distance.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, how frustrating this can be, and I'm sure it's very frustrating. Also, consider this. I don't know about you on your screen, but on my screen the front right fender of McClay's car is missing. Now, of course, these drivers have one fast repair, but it remains to be seen if in the heat of the competition, in the heat of the battle, if they remember to uncheck the fast repair when they did the first pit stop, because in this track it takes not a lot to get, like, just like 1-2 seconds of optional repairs, and if you have those, you will basically waste your fast repair on a slightly bent front splitter or something like that, so we'll see, because it's sometimes easy to forget to get everything set before the pit stop when you are in such a close battle as this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of drivers forget to uncheck that. I know in the Nürburgring 24. Oh wait, was it the Nürburgring 24 hours? May have been VLN, in fact, where they had a fast repair. Lots of controversy about that. That wasn't very supported. But of course, it's ever so difficult to know when you take that fast repair. If you get a little bit of damage in the first stop, do you take it then, or do you save it in case you have a big wreck later on? Really, it is something up to the drivers, because we have no idea uh, about these gyros fast repairs. So unfortunately, that's something which isn't accessible to us, as Clyde Whiting has an off. Still the AM leader by quite a distance as well. But Peter Bingham, he's a couple of laps down already. This is what happened to Clyde.
Oh, and that's going to be damage. That is 100% damage, hopefully just optional damage for him, but he's the first victim of the backstretch chicane.
Ah, here comes McClay. This time to the outside. Oh, this is going to be brave. Brandon trying to shove him off. There's no way around the outside at this part. And didn't really get the launch. I think he's tried every possible move, has George McClay.
Well, there is
But
one
it hasn't
more
worked
move.
so far.
And since we are at a NASCAR racetrack, you know what I mean. But he's not going to do it, of course, because
No.
these drivers are really like to play by the rules. And especially this season, there has been a more stringent race control service by the league organizers. So I think that, and also in the spirit of competition. By the way, Taliancic, once again, his personal best, 13.2. And he is lapping quite faster, a bit faster, no? Than the guys in front of him that are, of course, battling it out like there is no tomorrow. Of course, he had a longer stop, so he's and same went for Stadler, by the way. Basically, they had an identical stop. Stadler was in the pit lane for 2 tenths more than Tagliacci, so they are both going hand in hand. As once again, McClay too close, if that is something that is possible to say. And so when you are too close like this, like you said earlier, then you don't have as good of a run coming out of the final chicane. Coming into the final chicane, sorry.
A very interesting battle is just brewing. Tony Klusman, well, he's picked up his pace a bit. He was actually matching the top drivers on that last lap, and he had got to within 1 second of Chris Jackson. All of a sudden, just dropping a little bit further away than that. Had a bit of a weak sector or two, I believe. But yeah, he's keeping tabs on Chris Jackson. He's closing in on Harold Stadler as well. Because Stadler, with fresher tyres, might help him later on in the race.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Tony as soon as he is able to get close to Chris Jackson, two of the veterans of the series. And now, I was about to say, maybe McClay can use some lap traffic, and here we go. Plenty of lap traffic. Bogatairev moves out of the way. Then they should have Anthony Woodward in front of them. Where are they going to catch him? Oh dear!
Oh, just
man.
about misses the second and third place drivers. I don't think he made contact with Bogatai, unfortunately, but that's disappointing for Anthony Woodward. Runner-up, of course, last year in the club championship, and this is what happened to him, taking a wider line than lots of his rivals, and just took way too much of that third curb. Launched the cut, and well, the other drivers did a really good job at avoiding him.
And you can basically start to, you know, they are starting to make some more mistakes there. Of course, we had Bogatairev making a mistake there, but that was on the entry of the corner earlier in the race there at the chicane. Now we've had both Clyde Whiting and, of course, now Anthony Woodward having issues there coming out of the chicane. The more the race goes on, the more, you know, maybe the reflexes are not as sharp as they were earlier. Maybe you take a little bit more chances. Maybe he was just, you know, concerned about knowing that P2 and P3 were behind him and didn't want to ruin their races. So just a lapse in concentration, and that's a big crash and the end of the possibility of a good result.
Well, he might be able to use his faster pair,
Yeah,
though,
he
but
did.
even then, he'll have to do an extra pit stop, won't he? So.
Or sorry, he didn't. No, he did not.
Ah.
I think it's showing that like he left pit lane. Oh yes, because I'm watching. I was watching Andrew Hoffman.
Ah, here we go.
Yes, here we go. So like brand new car, but no more chance for mistakes for Anthony there.
Yeah, I think he's lost about 50 seconds and all that. Here comes McClay, putting his car on the inside. It's his opportunity. Hasn't gone for this move so far. Doesn't quite get the exit, but he's still keeping part of his car alongside. Now just falling behind a little bit. Now, where you go to the inside once again, try to rotate the rear end of that car just to tighten up the line. Really sliding about now. Tyres shouldn't be overheating too much in these cool conditions. And he's certainly not going to have a chance in the chicane this time. Now, this is where he's got to drop back to about 0.4 of a second, but he keeps on getting to within about 1/4 of a second going into this one. He needs to be about 0.4 of a second behind. And once again, you'll see that he just doesn't get the launch through. "13 seconds now between third and fourth. Of course, Taliancic on much fresher tyres, so he is catching those guys by about 0.3 of a second per lap. But, well, we'll see that second, third, and fourth battle, I think, materialise later on. Here is Jackson trying to close the gap to Stadler. Klusman all of a sudden dropping back again. So I don't really know what's happened there for Tony Klusman. Alex Mass was extremely fast on that lap. On that last lap, Mass was 7/10 faster than Granton and McClay for some sort of reason. So the Escape Virtual Racing Team driver, only about 18 seconds off 5th place, trying to keep himself in the mix there.
Yes, he's you know, trying to close the gap on the cars in front of them, sitting in the top 10, sitting on the lead lap. So far so good. Chris Jackson is trying to close the gap on Arasteder, and he's doing it at in a good pace, with a good pace.
All close between second and third, sorry. They were almost alongside. Here we go. So this is the opportunity where maybe he can get his car on the inside, can George McClay. Granton, tight, really tight, deep. Is there going to be contact between the two of them? McClay moves up into second position. Granton had to cut the chicane, I think, will take a very compromised line, and George McClay takes second position here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's already 12 seconds behind the race leader, and this has happened. Granton way too hot on the brakes there, did make the corner, and McClay just about squirms his way through, and well, he will be relieved about that.
Yeah, I was sure that he went into the wall there, but he didn't, and now he has clean track ahead now. Foggy is 12 seconds ahead, so maybe the damage has already been done, but if he can show his pace, he can really consolidate what would be a fantastic second position for the Fitztime Motorsport driver. And let's see how Johnny Brandon responds. I mean, it's hard to say this because he's on the podium and he's clearly one of the best drivers today and in the series, but maybe he hasn't been at his best today in race pace because effectively every driver that has went past him has then looked to pull away Foggy did so. Let's see. I think McClay is also on the, on schedule to do the same because he's looking to pull away, and he must be so happy to have finally made the move. And I'm guessing that Johnny made a mistake somewhere, but
Yeah, you'd think so. By the way, well, this is how it happened then. Unfortunately, I can't see this one, Marcus. So oh no, I can see it. And
this was the previous
oh,
lap, but this is the
okay.
closest we can get to what happened to Johnny. So bear with us for a second.
But I was just about to say, I put on the info tab, which tells me the time it is within the sim, and just as I clicked on it, it turns over to the 16th of March. Not March, April. It didn't go back 3 months. No, it's not April, sorry, it's May.
Well, yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not very good at my months, still learning them. And well, yeah, 16th of May. It's ticked over to the following day. And I guess sunrise will be somewhere probably yeah, probably about 5:30 in the morning, I would have thought. So that's 5 hours away in sim. So that will be ah dear, maths evades me now. Half an hour?
I have no idea.
Probably a bit more than half an hour, probably about 40 minutes, I reckon, until we get some light again.
So did Johnny make a mistake here at the chicane? This is the lap where the overtake took place. Let's see. Yes, he made a mistake
Ooh.
there. He slowed down much. Oh, and look at that. He also had a tank slapper there. Opened the door finally for George McClay to make the move. And we see it again from the chopper. Too hot on his brakes there was Johnny. And McClay so close to the wall, but he completes the pass. And he gets second position. And he's pulling away now 1.3 seconds in front of Johnny.
Yep, into the 13th now. He's pretty much matching Foggy out in the lead, seemingly. We'll compare lap times. The last lap he was 1/10 slower was McClay. A little bit of a slower lap time this time from Foggy, dipping into the 1 minute 14. So McClay might be able to take a couple of tenths out as he crosses the line. He does a 13.6, so he just did 2 laps within about a hundredth of a second of one another, and he closed in on the race leader by 6/10 of a second. Of course, he does have 1 lap fresher tyres, and he might have a little bit more fuel as well, so he could make up 2-3 seconds in the pit stop, I would have thought. And of course, saved a little bit of fuel as well. So that would take him to within about 8 seconds, I would have thought. But he's got a lot of work to do to challenge the race leader from now to the end of the race. Here's Taliancic, of course, the Joker in the pack. I don't mean that as a mean thing, but he's yeah, a bit of the random in the lot three here, because he's 12 seconds behind Brandon, but of course on considerably newer tyres and with a bit more fuel as well. At least can go a little bit further in this race. Yeah, just looking at the pit stop, sorry. Taliancic should make about 5 seconds back on the likes of Brandon and McClay and Foggy when it comes to their pit stop. So you basically got to look at that as 12 seconds minus 5 seconds because, yeah, he'll need less fuel at his pit stop.
And I think he will have, as McClay gets his fastest lap of the race, much fresher tires, I think, in the end, like
Yeah,
you said,
exactly.
for Taliacic. So don't rule him out for a podium position, especially if Johnny Brandon can't pick up his pace. They just had identical lap times, 1:13.9 in this last lap. So this is a battle we should keep an eye on. You can see the gap on the right side of your screen, hovering around the 12 seconds mark, more or less. Yeah, let's see how it goes from now on.
McClay, half a second faster than Foggy once again. Really strong lap time that time from George McClay's personal best lap of the race. Still a few tenths short of Foggy's best lap of the race, but that was, I believe, on his first lap on fresh tyres in this second stint. So, well, if he can keep on pegging this back down to 11 seconds now, the lead. It was as high as 12 seconds at one point. On this lap, Foggy once again improves a little bit more, a 13.73. McClay approaching the line. He set a personal best sector 3. And he does a 13.58, so another 10th and a half.
Yes, he's really going strong right now. Let's give some camera time to our race leader, by the way, who has been, after a very chaotic first stint, he's enjoying a nice, relaxed, relatively speaking, second stint. And with 50 laps, and that will be next time Nicole crosses the start finish line, it's time to start thinking about the final stint, the final pit stops. When will these guys stop? I think, and I guess, it's going to be soon enough, especially for the likes of Foggy and Brandon and McClay. So I'm expecting their pit stop in the next 3 laps, more or less. I might be completely wrong, so don't quote me on that.
Should be. Yeah, you're about right, actually. But yeah, if they go 26, 26, then they'll have to do another 28 to finish. So yeah, next 5 laps, undoubtedly, they'll come into the pits. Because Taliancic should be able to go for another 12 laps or so with his extra amounts of fuel. One thing that Taliancic could do is not take tyres at his last pit stop. Would save him a bit of time. But then that would really leave him vulnerable at the end. So
Yeah.
you'd think it's only... Well, I'm not sure what the loss is. I think, actually he'd still take... he wouldn't lose any time by taking tyres, so I'm being a little bit of an idiot here. But because I think tyres only take about 12 seconds fuel, he'll still have to take about 20 seconds worth at his last pit stop. So that shouldn't really be an issue for him. As Warmingham is behind Cleisterman.
Yeah.
What happened
He's
to
closing the
Richard
gap.
Warmingham?
No, he's closing the gap with.
No, but he was ahead earlier on.
He was ahead.
Quite a while ago, I think.
This was the overtake.
Oh, apologies. So that was when Cleisterman was really motoring along.
Yeah, this was quite a while ago. I have to be honest. So.
About half the race ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was on the 39th minute of the race, I think.
Yeah, lap 27. Now on lap 50, at least Cleisterman is 51 for the race leaders.
Warmingham coming back, by the way, as Chris Jackson, goes in. So it's the first one to blink of the top drivers.
He should undercut Stadler, shouldn't he? Because Stadler is going to go for another 10 laps or so. You think Jackson, with considerably fresher tyres, should be able to get the undercuts, considering he was only about 3 seconds behind previously. Will be a nice battle between those two to the end of the race, and Cleisterman might even be involved as well.
Tony usually comes for an interview after the race. I would like to ask him about today, because he really seems to be, missing something today. I don't know if you get the same feeling that I'm getting, but it seems like he's a little bit off the pace. Once again, it might be that he doesn't like the racetrack, which is a very unique kind of racetrack. These infield courses are very tough to get right, even though they are very simple on paper, but if you dislike them, it's very tough to even get motivated to get some practice, or to can get you really frustrated. So hopefully he comes in for an interview later today. Chris Jackson is out, and he's out in P9, and he has Bogatyrev 7 seconds behind and Must 30 seconds ahead, so loads and loads of real estate for him to push hard and try to make as much ground as possible from now until the end of the race.
Yep, we'll try to make sure of that undercut to Stadler, and then we'll force Stadler to pull something out of the bag on that last stop. Could even challenge Taliancic, because he was only about 12 seconds behind Taliancic, and you think, what, 10 laps, second lap, it's unlikely, but if Taliancic does make a mistake, he might even have a chance of undercutting him as well. Taliancic is progress a little bit halted. He's now, he's 10 seconds behind Brandon, so he is edging close. He was as much as 15 seconds off earlier. It is going to be close, but I expected him to be a little bit quicker than this in comparison, considering that he's got, 4-lap younger tyres, and the pace he seemed to show in that first stint as well.
Let's see if we get other takers for pit road. Yes, it's Tony Klusterman. Will Nicole Foggy go into the pits this time around then?
He's been saying some good lap times, says Foggy. Back into 1 minute 13. McLeod just dropping back into the 14, so the gap is back up to 14 seconds now. Oh, sorry, not 14 seconds, 12 seconds. But Foggy will go for one more lap at least. McLeod might just be worth him pitting now and try to get somewhat of an undercut, but well, it's really difficult either way he looks at it. Klusterman having a bit of a longer pit stop. Quite a long pit stop, in fact, 32 seconds in comparison to his teammates' 27 seconds. You'd expect Klusterman's to be a few tenths shorter, because you would have thought he'd have to take less fuel. He is going to come out just ahead of Taliancic, I believe that is, and it is. And so a little bit of a problem here for Tony, because he wants to undercut or at least stay ahead of Birmingham. So he's certainly got an interest, but Taliancic at the same time is desperate to close the gap to Brandon.
Alex Mas is also in. Still waiting for the lead drivers. Foggy stays out. Let's see McLeod.
Yeah, McLeod's lap times recently have dropped off quite a bit. He's got lapping about a second slower than he was earlier on. And now he is into the pits and puts the pit limiter on a little bit early. Brandon pushing it much more.
So final stop for these two guys. Let's see where they will come out. And how long will their stops take? So McLeod is the first to get service, of course. And here comes Johnny Brandon as well. Meantime, our race leader should be in now, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be close to a lap out in front of those drivers, because Taliancic's 27 seconds behind. Still, really does show the competitiveness of this field. You know, we've been going for well over an hour now. And yeah, it is still very close. McLeod only just ahead of Brandon. So the gap's come down a little bit. Was as high as about 4 seconds, now down to 1 second. So maybe just feeling the need for 2 seconds of extra fuel there for George McLeod. You can see Foggy is nearly a whole lap in front of them now, still hesitating to make his final pit stop.
Yes, so now as Jackson gets the fastest lap of the race, 113.0, wow. So we might see a 112 in the next few laps by, who knows, maybe even, by Brandon or by McLeod. Keep an eye on them. He is the race leader. He's just behind his two rivals for the race win.
Klusterman also with a 13.1. So, oh, ooh, into the wall is Richard Warminger. So he was running well out there. He was battling with Tony Klusterman, fighting for a top 7 in this race. He's already got damage, seemingly. And, well, has deliberately crashed into the wall there. And was pretty fortunate not to collect anyone else. So
sure?
It's before that he's picked up some damage, I believe.
Let's see, I think he was crabbing a bit, as you can see.
Yeah, he's deliberately crashed there, I think. The steering wheel was at 180 degrees leading up to that. At least on my screen it was. I'll look back at that one. I'll try to something.
So, race leader is in. Michael Taliancic will take the race lead once again. Al Stadler will follow him, I think. So Foggy should be comfortably ahead of Brandon and McClay. As you see the pit stop timer, that is the cone to cone time that you can see on the bottom of your screen, and it's a good stop, 56.2 seconds for Nicole Foggy. As now Aaron Stadler pits now, so he doesn't follow Taliancic in his 2 long stints, 1 short one at the end. McClay and Brandon are still behind, as McClay 112.3. No, sorry, that's Brandon 112.3. So fastest lap of the race for Johnny Brandon.
Yeah, fantastic lap there. William did crash on just the run up to the oval station. I think I've sent through to you, Marco, a timestamp with the record event button. But,
oh, really?
Yes, but I'm not sure how it works, so I may or may not have done it. But there you go. Basically he crashed into the wall. That's the important thing there. And well, he's very much compromised in this race now. Taliancic, of course, into the pits. A little bit earlier than I expected, at least, considering how much fuel he seemingly put in the car. So maybe not running the tank dry. Of course, we'll still need to put in less fuel.
Be surprised, I have to be honest with you.
Oh, here comes Jackson. This is important. Stadler, recently pitted. Jackson's going to go to the outside. Stadler is going to defend this way. He didn't defend against Taliancic earlier on. Jackson, this might be his best opportunity. While Stadler hasn't maybe got his tires up to temperatures, Jackson will go to the outside here. He's going to have the inside for the chicane, but unlike Brandon, I think he's going to get it stopped. Little bit wide now. Stadler will go for the cutback. He's got the inside going into turn 1. So tick over to lap 58. Stadler on the inside. Jackson is going to get shoved out of room there, almost into the wall, almost contact between the two of them. And that was fantastic retaliation there from Hal Stadler. He maintains 4th place.
Bad news for Michael Taliancic. Long stop. It is still 1 minute 30 seconds and counting, as Stadler goes a bit sideways there. Jackson puts it on the inside. Not going to work. Taliancic still sitting in his pit stall. And that is a very disappointing end to his run for the podium, I think.
Absolutely, because he did really have a good chance at catching up to Johnny Brandon. So this now is well and truly for 4th position, just not just on track, but also when it comes to the checker flag as well, locking his brakes there as Jackson, and now he's clipped the curve, somehow saves it though. Fantastic save from the Canadian, and well, his life was flashing before his eyes right there.
Oh, he blew his engine.
Had to come into the pits.
He blew his engine. I told you it was a possibility. And sadly, that's exactly what happened. Hopefully he has a fast repair so he can come straight out. But that is a massive blow to his race. Chris Jackson, and that curve there is absolutely unforgiving. So we'll know soon enough. I think he forgot to uncheck his tires. And we'll see if he comes out of the pits soon enough.
Well, it's still smoking that.
Which is not a good sign.
This was his battle prior to the incident. So now we've had the drivers running in 4th and 6th positions all of a sudden exiting this race after pretty much no terminal damage for any of the front runners for the entire race. Well, I guess Richard Warren was had an issue earlier on. So is it just the contact then, Marco, with the curb, or is it the fact that you get a bit airborne and you rev up the engine that causes the engine to blow?
That is a good question. I have no idea, but when in doubt, avoid that curb. You see, it's not massive,
Yeah.
massive airtime. You know, it's just a little bit of a bounce on that curb, but still, it destroys your engine, and that is the end of the road for Chris Jackson, who is still in the pit. So I assume he already used his fast repair earlier, and so now he is, you know, out of the hunt for some valuable points. Goes to show once again how tough that corner is. So, after a bit of, you know, very close quarter racing after the pit stops, McLay has been able to pull away from Johnny Brandon once again. 1.4 seconds the gap. We have 5 cars on the lead lap. And then Alex Mas is 1 lap down already. So, Foggy, McLay,
Taliancic has,
Brandon. Yeah, Italian.
so I was just going to say Taliancic has retired. He's disconnected from the session. Don't know if I'll go back to before his pit stop to see if there was anything unusual going on. Maybe he blew his engine as well. But I'll have a check.
He's saying in the chat that the simulator wasn't getting his fast repair, so he had to retire, which is very, very unlucky.
Absolutely. Yep, haven't blown his engine or anything.
Nice move for Pokatairev here. He gets past Alex Mas and up into 6th place. Give an update on the club championship race. Clyde Whiting is your leader, with Gary Croft in 2nd. Peter Bingham is in 3rd place.
Yeah, credit to all the drivers who are still running out there, because you can see this circuit is not easy one bit, and the lack of crashes that we've seen today is a real testament to the quality of the drivers out there. There are a lot of experienced drivers in this field who very much know how to tame this car, but even then it's still not easy. Of course, the proper V8 supercar thingy majig, which is promoted by the official series. Fantastic that that's coming to iRacing, and will be awesome to see all those quality drivers. Such a fantastic car to have races in, and well, hopefully it'll lead to maybe something in the real world as well. But fantastic to see progress being made by that championship.
Hopefully it also means that we get the new cars sometime soon. The
Yes,
new Holden and the new Ford.
and some new tracks.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if they go to Australia to scan the cars while they are at it, they might also
Well, I
scan
think they
the...
may have already scanned a couple of the other circuits anyway, because of course they visited Oran Park and Bathurst and Phillip Island. I don't know if that was all in one go, but I certainly know in
Oh!
the UK. Oh, as Brandon, has he dropped it into the wall?
Oh
Yes,
no! In
and
the fence.
he's going to be okay. Seemingly, certainly hasn't blown the engine. Well, if Taliancic was still around, he would certainly be taking that position now, as he's going to run wide again, almost onto the grass. He is onto the grass. Johnny Brandon frustrated with himself. He was chasing down George McClay, but you can see not too much damage on that XBR car. Should still be okay to finish on the rostrum.
See it once again. Got lucky there. Let's see if he has some required repairs, some you know, mechanical black flag or not. He stays out, so seems to be all good. Alex Stedler is 30 seconds behind him. Seems like Johnny got away with wonder.
Absolutely. So now quite significant gaps between the top three after being so close for those first 30 laps or so. Foggy 15 seconds ahead of McClay, who's 9 seconds ahead of Brandon. Sadler a further 30 seconds behind, with Klusman another 15 seconds behind. I'm sure Klusman will be very grateful to get a 5th position out of this one. Pretty much, unfortunately, no battles really going on out there. Alex Mas has had to come into the pits again. And I wonder, is he another victim of these engine issues? According to Michael Talianchich, he faced issues with the cooling of his car, and Axmas has then been another victim of this issue. And this is a replay of how he came into the pits, and that's so unfortunate to see. But he had not used his fast repair, so sorry, no, he hasn't. He did use his fast repair, and he's still in the pits.
Was it this one? Let's see.
Yep.
And if we see for the gearbox, you can see the trail of smoke unmistakable.
It's almost as though you got mechanical failures, I think, on this, because, of course, there is kind of like a correlation, undoubtedly, that the fact that you hit the curve and you get the damage, but at the same time, it is so much about luck, and it does feel very much unfair, a bit like a mechanical failure that we're seeing out there, and that's pretty much the only thing which has taken these drivers out of the race so far, which has been that curve, which has triggered a engine issue.
Exactly, and that is the third victim that we've had. That is very, very sad.
Has Chris Jackson just gone back into the pits? Or has he been there? Oh, he's played it again!
Oh dear.
Well, I think he's already replaced the engine. And he's gone and done the exact same thing again, seemingly. Was already 5 laps down. This is going to put him a few more.
Dear oh dear. Not his day. Too bad, he was having a
quit.
good run.
Yeah, he's quit the session now. So now, Nicole Foggy, probably half aware of these issues, but needs to make absolute sure that he does not make any more mistakes around this circuit, at least at that one corner. Otherwise, it could put his race win in jeopardy. He does have 15 seconds to play with still. He could probably do it on the last lap and get away with it, but any other lap certainly will be very costly.
Yes, as we are getting into the final laps of the race, just while we can go through that, quick look at the remaining rounds. 1 month from now, we'll have the final round of the season, of course. It's going to be on the 1st of June weekend, so 1st of June Saturday. Before that, we have in 2 weeks. A double header sprint and feature at Hulton Park, international layout, and then we finish the season with a triple header super sprint event from the Snetterton 200 layout. So, final race of the season very close to your home, Sam. Hopefully, you will decide to join me and not attend the race in person. But yeah, it's nice to have this double header in England to round up the season into very, historic tracks, especially for touring car racing, even though these are not really touring cars, but still we can pretend.
Yes, absolutely. Bit kind of souped up touring cars, these. No, it would be good to end the season at Snetterton, and certainly on the 200 layout as well, of course. The track's not quite the same as it was before 2011 when they made the circuit modifications. Not sure if it was 2011 actually, but it was certainly around that time when they added the infield. It used to be a superb second corner where you would really carry the speed, do a right-hander, have a little bit of runoff as well on the outside. Now it's a bit of a awkward hairpin into a tight 90-degree left, which isn't quite so good. But, and of course the last corner as well isn't quite what it used to be, but it'll still be fantastic to see the series ending there with the traditional super sprint races that we tend to end on in this series. And of course, Alton Park as well. What a unique race that is going to be. If this place was difficult to overtake, well, Alton Park is going to be even more. And undoubtedly a chance for maybe a surprise victor, because we haven't really seen a surprise victor this season, I'd say, Marco. I think Evdokas has snuck a couple of race victories when he hasn't necessarily been the fastest driver on circuit. I think Klosterman's maybe done that a couple of times as well. But it's kind of been those established. Of course, we're talking about those as underdogs, but you know they're both won titles in this championship. So hopefully we'll see maybe a surprise driver like Stadler or Bogatai or someone like that stealing a win in these next couple of rounds.
Yeah, especially in the final race of the season, final weekend, sorry, final round of the season, where drivers will be a bit more concerned about, especially the quick guys, about their overall championship more than the race itself. We might see, especially race 3 will be a full reverse for the final race of the season. So that is going to be a great chance for some of the drivers who really, I think, deserve a victory, but haven't been, lucky enough to have the cars fall into place for them. I mean, I don't know, but if I was Nicole Foggy, I would be so scared every time I go through that chicane. 10 laps to go right now, and every lap it's a risk of blowing your engine when basically you have 15 seconds over second place, as we are now into lap 70, so getting closer and closer to the end of the race. And the sun is still not come out. It's still very dark outside. So
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
currently 4:15 in the morning, so we've probably got another 80 minutes to go. How much is 8? So 80 divided by 8. Oh, I can do that. That's 10. So we've got 10 more minutes until light, and we've got 10 laps to go.
So we should have
And
some
so
sunlight.
we probably the last 2 laps we might get a bit of light in. And then of course when we're going through the results, it should get quite light quite rapidly.
Yeah, hopefully we get some brioche and cappuccino while we do the interviews.
Yes.
On a more serious note, I remember when I was very, very young, and I watched one of my first 24 hours of Le Mans. I remember that they interviewed one of the drivers, and he said that when you see, after the night, when you see the first rays of sun and you see the sky getting lighter, it really gives a nice feeling to your heart, because you know that the worst is behind you and you are getting closer and closer towards the end of the race, because the night is usually the toughest part, and also once again it means that the majority of the race is behind you and you just have just a little bit of some hours left in daylight, which is and also one thing that I didn't know, of course, that the drivers their most disliked moment of the race is when the sun is getting up from the horizon, especially because not only for the sunlight straight at you, but also because it tends to really cook the inside of the car, because the sun is beaming straight onto it. So that is the toughest part for but the drivers prefer that to running in the night, especially in Le Mans or Sebring, where there's not much illumination around the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, not too much illumination around this circuit, at least in the infield. But these guys have dealt with it superbly. And you can see a little bit of the circuit. But trust me, if you if you hop into this car right now and try to do a few night laps around here, you will not pick your apexes immediately. It will take you a little bit of time to get used to it. But Nick he's absolutely nailed it this evening. And well, if he can win today, his championship lead is going to be quite considerable. Of course, without drop rounds, I believe Tony Klosterman might still be leading going into this round. But in reality, Nick Hoffman's got quite a comfortable advantage. He really just needs to turn up for the next couple of rounds, and it should be his. And if anything, actually, the race for second place in the championship heating up quite a bit as well because, well, Brandon Whiting's had another big off, and this might sway the club championship, or the club race at least, because Whiting is 3 laps ahead of Croft. This is what happened to Whiting. Took way too
Oh
much curb,
dear.
and well, he pretty much hit
Oh
every curb and then hit Alex Mass as well.
yes. Oh man, unfortunate crash there for Alex Mast. Nothing he could do, I think, to avoid Clyde, who smacked into the tire barrier and got sent straight back into the racing line. In you know, oh, he tried his best. There was nothing he could do there, and I think Alex is still going, but I am a bit concerned about. His car looks remarkably fine. I have to tell you this, for just having like a massive hit like that. So hopefully he is all good and can finish the race in a good P7.
Yeah, well, he's got about 3 laps back to the next car, Gary Croft. So, he should be okay. But Whiting is not going to win this club race
We'll see.
unless
I mean,
he's
unless he
got
has a
the
fast
fast
repair.
pair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clyde's a wily old fox, and you know what? I think he is trundling down the pit lane now. Well, that is fantastic thinking that from Clyde Whiting. He has saved his fast repair. He's already had a couple of issues in this race, but he saved it for that eventuality, and he is still going to win the club race, seemingly. As long as he can take his, well, yeah, he gets it off the pit limiter, out of the pits, and, well, we'll be very thankful of that one.
In front of Alex Mass, so hopefully we don't have a repeat of what just happened at the chicane. Let's see how Clyde approaches it this time. I'm sure he's going to lift a lot. Let's get the, the speedometer on the screen and see. Taking it very easy. I imagine a crash like that really, puts you in a different mood for the final 6 laps of the race.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, not wanting to clip the curbs that time. Absolutely avoiding them at all costs. Still getting quite a bit of speed though, and it almost caused him a bit of an issue near the end of that sequence. But gradually gaining a bit more confidence. So Massa just dropping behind McClay.
Yes, Mass and Whiting are fighting for position right now.
Yeah.
So seems like Alex is, after all, I think his car is perfectly fine. But for I don't know how is that possible, and could also get a position in all of this and get up to P7. He's gaining a bit on Clyde right now. Let's see if he's able to close the gap and get that sweet P7 for his race. We will stay with this battle then.
Bit of an odd race for Alex Mass today because at times he's been really quick. At times he's had the pace for to fight for maybe even a top 4, and then at other times he's really been nowhere. And has had a couple of mistakes as well. Good line through the chicane that time though, but I think he's struggling down the straights quite a bit.
So he might have some aero damage after all for that contact, because Clyde is pulling away from him right now. And you can see, yeah, he was that was I think Gary Croft, yes, in that he just went past him, and Gary Croft is 3 laps behind him. And still Alex Mas isn't able to keep up with him, so unfortunately I think he had, let's see once again, let's see if okay, we have the replay here, so here is Alex. But he also went. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think he went through Clyde. So more than the contact with Clyde, I think it was the contact with the curb there that really damaged his race and his car.
Yeah. It almost was, if he didn't notice that Clyde was there, he would have probably taken a slightly better line and wouldn't have picked up as much damage, even if he had absolutely crashed into him.
Oh no!
Oh, that's a lot of curb. Saves
Oh,
it.
and the
And
engine
he's
is
running
gone.
the engine. And, well, he's not going to have a fast repair to save him this time. Alex Mass, that's going to be the end of his race. He
He might do it.
get, you know what, he should have stayed out. He should have completed one more lap, because if he'd completed one more lap, I think he would have been enough laps ahead of Gary Croft. And he is staying out.
You see,
So he's doing the wise thing here.
I think he will be disqualified with 1 lap to go unless he blows his engine earlier, because I think you have 3 laps to clear the mechanical black flag, or 4. We will know right now. Hopefully he can make it to the start-finish line, as all of a sudden we have a couple of laps left, 4 laps to be precise, and it will be 3 in just a few seconds time. And yeah, 3 laps to go right now for our race leader, Nicole Foggy, who has had, this is it might go into the history books as, 20 seconds over P2, but me and you and everyone who watched the race and all the drivers know that this was a very, very tough win for Nicole. That first stint was absolutely high pressure stuff and good strategy. Good second stint where he pulled away and he was a bit helped by the fight between McClay and Brandon, but in the end he made it work and he gets a very nice victory. And like you said, this is like winning 2 races in a traditional weekend, or winning all 3 races of a super sprint. He gets a full haul of points, so very nice for his championship. Might be, like you were saying, the points he was needing to get to that title, and this will keep the tradition with the driver finishing in second the previous year, winning the title the next year.
Yeah, that's a good tradition, isn't it? If anything, it shows how you can't just waltz into this championship. Oh, it's massive. Well, he's still going. He should be able to cross the line. That's all he probably needs to do to confirm that position. But it shows that you can't just waltz into this championship and straight away go win it. You need that year or season of practice, and then you really become a master of the cup.
Let's see if he gets disqualified or not. This
I
will
should
be
be
the
fine this time.
moment of truth, because this will be the 3rd lap since his mechanical black flag. Drum roll. Should be okay. Oh, but he has to do one more.
That's only the 2nd time he's crossed the line, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he has to do one more. As you see on the horizon, the sun is rising. So we were absolutely great with our mats today, Sam. It
absolutely.
was a top-notch job. And
It's
now the white flag is in
now.
the air. Yeah.
So I was about 10, 20 minutes out, but I'm quite pleased with that one.
I mean, we could have cheated and checked it on the beta UI, but since we are in the sim, we cannot do that. So this is all done, with our own, calculations. So
guesses.
Yeah, white flag for the race leader and for George McClay. Now Johnny Brandon will take it, and we have 3 cars on the lead lap. Okay, now the moment of truth for Alex Mas. Will he get disqualified? He's letting
he's enough laps ahead anyway.
Yeah, but
he'll still hang on to 8th place. But it's still a good experiment, isn't it?
You want to finish the race, no? You want to finish the enduro,
yes.
It would be terrible, to not. I think he's
gonna make it.
Yeah, unless his engine blows, which would be terrible.
Yeah.
No issues for the race leader, then. He is at a fantastic race, Sam.
Absolutely. He was under pressure for the first 30 laps or so. In 2nd position, he bided his time. He pulled off the perfect strategy And Nico Foggy is going to take his 9th win of the season. He wins at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it ended up being quite a comfortable race victory. The other two drivers on the podium, the other two drivers on the lead lap, George McClay and Johnny Branton, are going to be rounding out the final few corners. What a fantastic performance that is from George McClay. Maybe had the pace to win today, but all those laps stuck behind Johnny Branton in that second stint maybe just cost him. Brandon will finish in 3rd position. Fantastic qualifying for him, but didn't really have the race pace to match, unfortunately. But no doubt he'll be wanting to, even if he doesn't defend his championship, at least end the season on a bit of a flush, maybe get a couple of race victories with the couple of rounds to go. Alex Mas will cross the line. Well, it doesn't matter if he gets disqualified or not. He might disappear in a second.
No, his race is over,
Alex
so it's
Mas.
good.
Yeah, but he might still get disqualified on that last lap.
No. Once you cross the start finish line, you are good, and he is good. P8 in the end for him. Yeah, everyone went past the start finish line, so cameras for our race winner then, Nicole Foggy, and in just a few seconds time the race results for our final enduro of this V8 Supercar season 6.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, as the sun rises as well, the organisers pretty much nailed the times. I thought it was a good mixture of day and night. Maybe starting maybe an hour later, so that we ended in the day would be a little bit better. But still, absolutely fantastic from the organisers. And we can, I think, go through the final results. So it's Nicole Foggy taking the race victory, of course, his 9th race victory of the season. And, well, another full points haul. It's rare that in this series that you see a driver getting the double, but he's already got about 3 of them today. And I think both of the endurance meetings as well. So that just shows how he's had a few big points hauls as the season's gone on. George McClay, fantastic result for him in 2nd place, with Johnny Branton in 3rd. Hal Stadler, probably his best result in this championship, in 4th, with Tony Klusman in 5th. Nikolai Bogotayev, very solid sixth, showing his experience. Was only 1 lap down on the race leader. Really a competitive race from him. And then we have the half retirees, because these drivers, I think, had to do quite extensive repairs as the race went on. Clyde Whiting was 4 laps down in 7th place, but that's still a fantastic point score for Clyde. Alex Mass was in 8th position, also 4 laps down. He finished the final few laps with a blown engine, of course. Guy Croft was 7 laps down. I think he did finish the race, but then everyone else. No, so Peter Bingham also finished the race 10 laps down, but that's still a good top 10 for Peter. She'll be very happy with that one. And then the retirees were Chris Jackson, who clipped the curb and blew his engine. Michael Taliancic, who clipped the curb and broke his engine. Richard Warmium, well, he smashed into a wall and, well, broke his suspension and then clipped a few curbs and blew his engine. Anthony Woodward, not quite sure what happened to Anthony out there, but he certainly retired anyway. Katie Race Toronto also, and Andrew Hoffman had a hardware issue, something to do with his throttle pedal, and Tanaka, Switzer, and Frost did not take the start. We always have interviews with the drivers, and so I frantically look to see who we've got to talk to. Well, we've got some fantastic drivers to talk to, and undoubtedly, I think the first driver we're going to have to talk to
Bit
is
slow.
today's race winner, which is Nicole Foggy. And Nicole, how was it out there? Of course, there was quite a few factors to contend. You had a couple of very competitive drivers to race with. You had the day night. You had those furious curbs as well. It looks pretty easy from our perspective, but I imagine in the cockpit it was a bit more difficult than that.
Yeah, I mean, especially that fast chicane. I never went full out through it. There were, even then, few close calls on those blue curbs. I don't know if you saw in the practice, Tony hit the right one at the end of the fast chicane, then bounced into the left one, and he just went flying. flying up in the air and he was gone. So even more scary after seeing that. And yeah, at the start, well, yeah, George, all week in practice, he's been by far the fastest. So I think me and Johnny, a bit of luck as well involved to get qualify 1 and 2, which helped a lot. You know, I think George might have pulled, if he qualified first, I think he might have pulled away from us. So that worked quite well in our favor.
That first pit stop proved to kind of be the pivotal moment. You pitted 1 lap earlier. You also took a little bit less fuel, seemingly. Was that your strategy all along? Because you seem to be lifting and coasting in that first stint quite a bit.
It wasn't a strategy at the start. And then, well, Johnny qualified first, so I thought I might as well fuel save a bit. He was going to fuel save. He knew he needed to, because he knew he was using a bit more fuel than me here. So I was quite comfortable just kind of just keeping up with him for a while. And then George started pushing a bit more behind. So I thought, I'm getting out of there. So I pitted early to see what would happen, because I knew I was pretty good on the fuel. And yeah, it worked out, I think, pretty well. I think I ended up what was it, maybe 3 or 4 seconds ahead of them once they came out the pits on the next lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yeah, just kind of had to keep it in order to the end of the race. That's now your 9th race victory of the season. The second best is 3 races. It's quite incredible how not only have you had superb pace this season, but you always seem to put it into the results as well, which maybe last season wasn't quite the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not always the fastest, and I don't really, I don't know. I think I've done quite well with the pit strategies, or at least the fuel. I think it's the fuel quite a lot that's helped. And then pitting, it's quite easy to decide what to do sometimes. But yeah, it's cool to get a few wins. I've been, you know, I think I'm getting a bit more experience in the car, which is helping, kind of just knowing how it handles and stuff. A bit less spinning out, which is the big thing at the start. You know, our close calls, losing the rear, and the braking was a hard part. I've been fiddling about with my brake pedal so much, and trying to just get a better feel for the brakes. And it's helped a lot just practicing and changing the brake pedal. Seems to have helped me out a lot.
Of course, next up we head to Alton Park. Is that one that you enjoy, and have you ever tackled it in a BX supercar?
Alton Park. I can't remember what one that is. I've done it. I think I've done it once on iRacing, maybe twice. Is that the one? It's got. Do you go over?
I think we've just lost you there, actually, Nicole. Just having some connection issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I'm saying is Alton Park. It's got a bridge, and it's kind of like a figure of 8.
No, this is Oran Park.
No, that's Oran Park.
That's in Australia.
We're talking about the British one on the other side of on the other side of the world. But no, it's a good track. I'm sure you'll like it, and I'm sure you will at least win one of the races, if not get both of them. And yeah, been great to watch you out there today, Nicole. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just the team XVR, and you guys for the broadcast. Always do a good job, and for the runners of the series as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nicole, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, see you then.
So, Marco, we've got a couple of other drivers to have a chat with. Who do you fancy having a chat with first?
Johnny Brandon, absolutely. I want to talk with him. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Marco.
So, Johnny, tough race today. That first stint was absolutely crazy, at least from up here. Then in the, you were able to hold on second place for a bit, but then when George went past you, you couldn't, respond, and then you had to settle for a very good P3 in the end.
Yeah, I was happy with that. Really enjoyed it. The first stint, we were quite surprised to be ahead of George, to be honest, in qualifying, because he's been flying all week. So we just thought we'd save fuel. Obviously, I couldn't save quite as much as what Foggy was doing behind me. And unfortunately, I hit the wall on the outside halfway through the stint. So when I pitted, I didn't take the fast repair because I didn't think it was that bad. And yeah, it's kind of punished me. I really struggled on the new tyres. I just had fun trying to hold George back as cleanly as possible. Eventually, he got me. I made a mistake. I think I was a little bit slow in a straight line as well, but the fronts were just really suffering on the infield. Yeah, and then as soon as I took the fast repair on the final stop, suddenly I was good again and caught up to him, and then just got held up by a back marker. Got a bit flustered, made a mistake, but I had good pace up to that point. Hit the wall again and got more damage. So it just cost me some straight line speed, I think. But really fun. Story of my season, though. Too many mistakes, I think, this year.
And it has been, a track that looked simple on paper, but it had many, many dangerous places. And not only the worst, but of course, I want to ask you, how did you approach that terrible chicane on the backstretch? Because it has been the source of many problems tonight.
Like I say, we was sort of fuel saving for most of it, and that was the place to do it. And typically, I hit the wall twice tonight, and although I thought my problems would be in that chicane, I hit the wall in two completely different places, so it was quite frustrating. But yeah, it was just a case of gliding through it, not pushing to it. There's so much speed to be had there if you want to go for it, but it's just not worth taking the risk in a race. It's around a quali lap, but yeah, if it was close, after the second stop, when I was with George, I was prepared to push a bit more through there, and I was pushing more through there, and catching him up as he was when he was behind me. When you need to, you can, and there's at least half a second we were leaving on the table through there, at least. So yeah, but it's just weighing up those risks.
We finished the season in two British tracks, of course, Oulton Park first and Snetterton in 1 month time. Are you feeling confident about those two races?
Confident I'll enjoy myself. Yeah. I've not done Oulton Park on iRacing. Snetterton I know Oulton Park though, I've been there, so I do know the track. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think not got much hope of a championship at the moment. I've missed too many rounds and broken pedals and disconnected wheels and connection problems last week, and driving like an idiot when I was here and making silly mistakes. So yeah, it's just going to enjoy it, see it through now. Well done to Nickel today again. Great job. Well done to George. Really good pace and really clean and patient behind me in that second stint. So yeah, just looking forward to the rest of it. It's a great series.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
I just kind of didn't I? So XVR, all the people that ran the league, you guys for doing a great job. I hope you didn't laugh at me too much for my lack of pace. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Johnny, and catch you in a couple of weeks' time.
Cheers, Marco. Take care.
That was Johnny Brandon. And finally, we'll have an interview with Tony Kloostman as well. And Tony, probably maybe not quite the pace that you wanted, but you kept it clean out there, which was the number one priority, and you finished in 5th place, a nice points haul in the end.
Yeah, it was a pretty average drive. Not a lot of practice, unfortunately, for me this past week, and I just went in with the attitude of stay clean, stay safe. I kind of expected that there'd be some carnage maybe in the first 2 laps from the 7 or 8 guys that started ahead of me, and that didn't quite work out to my favor. But at the end, 5th place for a long race like this, I think is acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. You were having some nice battles out there with the likes of Chris and I think Nikolai was pretty close to you as well at one point. Would you say you maximized your strategy out there? Was that definitely the way to go? Because you seemed to pit a little bit earlier than some other drivers.
Yeah, I pitted early both times because I had a little bit of damage. So I knew that we could go 32 or 33 laps, and I kind of went 25 or 25-26, I think. So, and that made the last stint 29 laps. And, I think it was the right call. Didn't use my fast repair the first time around, just did the repair. and then used it in the second one. But unfortunately, I had a curb strike shortly after that, and that slowed the car down a little bit.
Next up, we head to Alton Park. You've been racing the V8 for a while. Have you ever encountered that circuit in this car before?
Yeah, many times, and it's a track that I really, really enjoy. It's a very technical track, and I expect some very good battles.
And I imagine your aims for the end of the season. Of course, Nicole has got a bit of a gap. You're still in mathematical chance, but second in the championship as well. Still very possible for you. Is that kind of your aim, or is it just to score a couple more race wins?
I think that a podium, top three would be very nice. But we've got some great competition in the series these days. Nicole, Johnny, George, Chris, Victor when he shows up. So we've got a lot of guys capable of doing very well in the series. And if I finish in the top three this year, I think that's not too bad for an old man.
Oh, you're not that old, I think.
64 almost.
Well, 64 years young.
There you go.
There you go. That's it. Before we let you go, Tony, anyone you'd like to thank?
Our team Never Quit Racing, Simability, D4 Pet Services. Chris and Gary did an awful lot of work on setups this past week, and came up with something that really worked. KSW close for sponsoring our league this past year, and as you well know, we're looking for new sponsors. So if anybody wants some exposure, just hit us up. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Take care.
So, Marco, as the sun is well and truly has risen now at this Charlotte Motor Speedway circuit, and yeah, we can look forward to the final couple of rounds of the championship. But also look back at this round because it was a great round, and the quality of driving. We saw quite a few retirees, of course. But I thought the quality of driving was absolutely superb out there in terms of the racecraft, in terms of the competitiveness as well. And one of the best endurance races I think we've seen in this championship.
Yeah, we tend to repeat ourselves very often, but this championship never fails to deliver, and especially the enduros are absolutely, the top, the top, you know, the best races of this championship. I think I love the way the strategies work out. That first stint was absolutely crazy, and it lasted for almost 30 laps. So, I mean, this was absolutely amazing, and I can't wait for the final two rounds of the season. Two tracks in England, but two tracks that are very, very different to each other. Ulton Park, very, a lot of elevation changes, a lot of variety, whilst Snetterton is a bit more flat, even though the 200 layout is by far my favorite of the track. So I'm expecting a lot. 5 races left only, in those 2 rounds. Seems to be like the championship started last week, but in reality it's almost over. But after the summer, we will be back once again. And like Tony said, if you want to sponsor this championship, just contact the guys, and they will try to set you up. And that's going to be, of course, very important for this championship because it's. Let's remember that this is a free championship. Everyone can join. And in this day and age, to have a free championship that has TV exposure, on Apex, it's it's quite a unique thing to have. So congratulations to the guys organizing the league, and hopefully they can find a nice sponsor for season 7.
Yes, absolutely. We thoroughly recommend sponsoring the series, of course, and also driving in it. It is absolutely fantastic, and of course, you get to have us commentate cursing you. So why would you not turn that down? Of course, we'll be back for the KSW Painting Year V8 Supercar series in 2 weeks' time at Alton Park, but elsewhere on Apex Racing TV. We've got nothing tomorrow, unfortunately. But on Monday, we will have the Masters and maybe Rickmatech, not quite sure. On Tuesday, we'll have more Masters. and also the BSR. Oh, sorry, not the BSR. The VRS GT Sprint Series. That's the GT3 cars. On Wednesday, we'll have the
Sim Racers World GT,
Oh,
and
sorry.
also don't
Yes.
forget on Tuesday morning we have the Australian SOF for the IMSA series, which is
Yes, of course.
done by our Australian crew because none of us wants to wake up that early.
Of course, on Thursday as well, we got the BSRTC Pro Series, and I think that pretty much will round us off. And of course, next Saturday as well, we've got the Sim Racers Asia,
Yes.
of course. And yeah, so that should be very good. Hopefully, you'll keep an eye out on the channel. Of course, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitch channel, and also like our Facebook page as well. So, from me and from Marco as well, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.